Ms. Boss, first of all, thank you for your courage coming forward. You know how important it is to have effective leadership in pursuing justice. I think you've answered my question in your last 2 minutes of your testimony, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to say it once again, how you feel about Mr. Blanch and the prospects of his continued leadership at the Justice Department.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel like we have already seen what has come out of the Justice Department as far as the prosecutions of the drug trafficking, the cartels. He is following up the hard work of the men and women that are in our the ICE agents, CBP, and he's prosecuting those dangerous criminals, and that is making a difference.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Ms. Hoyer, we know the Biden administration was the most active pardoning administration in American history, 4,000 total acts of clemency. I think you were the pardon attorney on January the 17th, 2025, when President Biden granted more communications in a single day than any prior president had over that entire presidency. Is that right?
I was the pardon attorney on that date, sir.
Okay. Were you also the pardon attorney on December 23rd, 2024, when President Biden commuted 37 of 40 inmates on federal death row?
Yes, sir, I was.
Thank you for that. So I want to bring up some of these commutations. Thomas Sanders, who killed a 12-year-old girl, Lexis Roberts. He shot Lexis 4 times and slit her throat after the girl had witnessed him murder her mother. Did you object to President Biden's commuting his sentence?
Sir, I'm not able to discuss the recommendations that I made to the president regarding acts of clemency.
Can you speak? Did you turn your microphone on?
I believe it's on, sir.
You were the pardon attorney, yeah.
I was, yes. Yes,
You
sir.
recommended, you didn't object to the recommendation.
Sir, I'm not able to discuss the recommendations I provided to the president about
Okay.
clemency matters, which are
I
considered
want
to
you to
be
know,
covered by executive privilege.
okay, I want you to know that I have read evidence that you made this recommendation. So are you telling me the evidence I read that I'm wrong? So did you make the recommendation, or you don't want, you're telling me you can't talk about it?
Sir, just like Mr. Blanch explained yesterday, I'm not free to discuss the recommendations that I provided to the White House because they are covered by executive privilege.
You can't even tell me if you contacted the victim's family? You can't say yes or no to that?
Sir, I cannot talk about the discussions I had unless the White
Okay.
House chooses to waive the executive privilege. I would be happy to come back and speak with you or other members of this committee.
And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I know. So let's go to the case of Jorge Avila Torres, who stabbed to death 8-year-old Laura Hobbs and 9-year-old Crystal Tobias, who were riding their bicycles in a Chicago suburb. He had also sexually assaulted at least one of them. And 4 years later, he strangled to death a 20-year-old naval officer, Amanda Snell, in her barracks. So you can't talk about this, but I have read evidence that you made this recommendation, and you can't even tell me yes or no whether you made that recommendation.
Well, sir, what I can tell you is that President Biden did commute the sentences of 37 individuals who were on death row to sentences of life imprisonment, and all of those individuals will remain incarcerated for the rest of their lives, most likely in maximum security prisons.
Well, we know what the commutation did, but the fact is that they were taken off death row. Then we have the case of Dylan Roof, shot up a church in South Carolina. That made national history for a long period of time in his trial. He murdered 9 African Americans in a racially motivated attack. And you're telling me you can't talk about that, but I have read evidence that you made this recommendation. And Since you can't comment on it, I'm just going to have to tell you that you made that recommendation. Robert Bowers murdered 11 people in Pittsburgh Tree of Life Synagogue in the deadliest attack on a local Jewish community in American history. And you're telling me you can't talk about the commutation of Robert Bowers, but I want to tell you that I have read evidence that you made this recommendation. And then also Johar Tsarnaev planted bombs at the 2013 Boston Marathon, killing 3 and injuring hundreds in an act of terrorism. And you're telling me you can't talk about that, but I want you to know that I have read evidence that you made this recommendation. And it seems pretty, I'm going to give you a chance to react to it, but it seems pretty obvious that you were fired because the current Justice Department leadership disagreed with how you handled the pardons last administration. You want to respond?
Sir, regarding these cases, these are absolutely horrific cases, and every one of the individuals you mentioned will remain incarcerated for the rest of their lives, most likely in a maximum security prison facility. As far as the reasons for my firing, I've been in litigation with the Justice Department for over a year about my firing, which was plainly illegal. And Mr. Blanche's comments in this room yesterday are the first time I have ever heard the explanation that I was fired because of recommendations I made to the prior administration about how to accomplish their clemency objectives. Mr. Blanche's Justice Department submitted a pleading to the Merit Systems Protection Board that stated that the facts about my firing were not in dispute. The facts, as I have been saying for 1 year plus, are that I was fired within hours of declining to make a recommendation that I believed was very dangerous, and Mr. Blanche's statement yesterday that it was for another reason materialized out of thin air and has never been stated before.
Okay. Mr. Ashcroft, you served this nation with distinction during your tenure as Attorney General. You know what it takes to do the job and to do it well. Based on Mr. Blanche's leadership of the Justice Department during this administration, do you believe he would serve as an effective and capable Attorney General?
Well, I think the statistics and the history tells a story here. Thank you for the question. But Todd Blanche has a heritage and history of involvement in the Justice Department, pursuing the rule of law and enforcing the rule of law, and that extended from his time as an assistant in the office when I was Attorney General 25 years ago, to recent times when his aggressive approach in fighting crime has actually been a part of the effort that's driven down violent crime across the country, and particularly in cases where the department has been welcome to assist and work with local officials. In my home jurisdiction in Southwest Missouri, they had Operation Spring Cleanup, and a number of very important prosecutions were begun at that time, and I think it's a credit to him. I have no doubt that his commitment to maintaining the safety and security of Americans and their rights will be pursued in the pursuit of the rule of law and within the bounds of the Constitution of the United States, which is the framing that I think every American expects, that the Constitution and rule of law of the United States be followed and defended.
What we just watched was not simply a senator asking questions about presidential clemency. This exchange exposed a much bigger question about how power is exercised inside the Justice Department and whether accountability is applied consistently, regardless of which political party occupies the White House.